Hail you Hillmaniacs, it's Hillmanator. So, despite me never having celebrated Halloween, I know it's coming up, and I thought to myself, well, if I'm gonna start doing film reviews, may as well begin with one that's relevant to the season. And as I was going through all the different horror films that I've watched, like Alien, and The Conjuring, and even Jaws, one stood out above the others. If I were to start, why not start with the father of slasher films? Or should I say, the mother? That's right, today I'm tackling Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. The classic was first released in 1960 and is easily one of the most famous horror films of all time, right up there with The Exorcist and Halloween. Certainly the famous shower scene is one of the most well-known and most referenced scenes from the decade. Whilst the film initially received mixed reviews, the general public loved it and would line up outside cinemas to watch it. Psycho went on to be nominated for 9 awards by 6 different Academy Awards, winning 3 of them. It is now widely regarded as a masterpiece of cinema that everyone should watch. But is it really deserving of this? And does it hold up after so long? Well, let's find out as we dive into Psycho. The plot! Spoilers, I guess, though the film has been out for 60 years, more or less, by the time of this recording. Still, if you want to hear the spoiler-free version, jump to the comments part, okay? Good? So the film starts with Marion Crane, played by Jeanette Lee, discussing with her boyfriend Sam. No, not that Sam, the one played by John Gavin. That's better. Anyway, they're discussing that they can't afford to get married. So she goes to work, where she's given the job of handing $40,000 over to the bank. Now, let me stress, even today, you'd be able to afford a lavish wedding with that money and afford the rent on your 2-bedroom flat for a good couple of years, maybe even a couple of decades. But back in the 60s, this was serious money. According to my research, that equates to around $341,133.78 in today's money, or about £304,455.97. Yeah. More than enough to pay off Sam's debts and start a life together. So, being a rational person with a solid moral compass, Marion steals the money and drives off to be with her boyfriend. Wow. Way to make us root for our main character. Unfortunately, for her, due to a rainstorm, she is forced to stop at the Bates Motel. No, not that Bates Motel. That's better. There, she meets Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins, who she then has dinner with, whilst he tells her that he loves stuffing dead animals and lives with his mentally ill mother, who we heard argue with him earlier, and controls his entire life. Moved by this, because who wouldn't be? Marion decides to drive home and return the money the next morning. Because I know when I hear of a man stuck living with his mother who's never allowed to have his own life, I too decide to live without a life of my own. Like, seriously. She'll probably wind up doing jail time for this. Then Marion decides she needs a shower. Fun fact about this scene, it was almost cut in a completely different way because the censors really hated the fact that you could hear the toilet flush. Movies have come a long way, haven't they? Anyway, Marion is scrubbing away when an unknown woman walks into the bathroom pulls back the shower curtain, and stabs her to death. Yep, you thought she was the main lead because she was the one the film had focused on. But now she's dead, and her body and possessions, including the money, have been drowned in the swamp out back. The rest of the film focuses on Lila Kane, Marion's sister, played by Vera Miles, and Sam, trying to work out what happened to her. A PI named Arbogast is hired to find Marion and the money, and manages to lead them to the motel, before being stabbed in the face by the mysterious woman and pushed down the stairs. Lila and Sam, having not heard from him for a while, and being ignored by Mrs. Bates, go to the sheriff's station, who inform them that she has been dead for 10 years after a murder-suicide. Meanwhile, Norman traps his mother down in the fruit cellar. When the others arrive, Sam distracts Norman while Lila searches the house. Norman gets agitated by Sam's questions and knocks him out, heading up to his room. Lila hides in the cellar, where she finds Mrs. Bates. Or rather, finds what's left of her. Hearing Lila's screams, Norman comes down, dressed in a woman's clothing, a wig, and wielding a large knife. He goes to lunge at her, but a recovered Sam knocks him out just in time. In a courthouse, a psychiatrist explains that Norman developed a split personality, believing himself to be his own mother. The mother personality would kill anyone Norman liked, and it is revealed that she has killed before. In the cell, the mother insists it was all Norman's doing, and that she wouldn't hurt a fly. Finally, Marion's car, body and possessions are dragged out of the swamp. Comments! Is this the tightest knit story ever told? Well, no. The way the film is cut and shot makes it impossible to believe the final reveal, and as such can draw people out. But it is certainly a good example of subverting audience expectations, as we see through Marion and Norman. Overall, the plot is good, but the execution raises some questions. To be fair to the film though, it did have to stick pretty close to its source material. Yeah, I didn't know either, but apparently Psycho is based on a book released a year prior by Robert Bloch. Now, I haven't read it, but from my research, the film more or less follows the book, except for a few minor changes. Like, in the book, Arbogast gets stabbed in the foyer of the house, whereas in the film it's at the top of the stairs. Also, Marion actually has her head cut off in the book in the shower scene, whereas in the film, obviously it's just stabbing. They also removed a couple of Norman's vices, such as his alcoholism and addiction to pornography. Though I can see why they've done that, because it just makes him a more sympathetic character. They had to change Marion's name from Mary, which it was in the book, because there was already a Mary Crane living in the area where the film was set. The only other major thing that they changed was removing a subplot about Lila and Sam having a potential romantic build-up, which, to be honest, I kind of understand, because it might have made Sam seem a bit cheap. I mean, he didn't even know that Marion was dead, and if he hadn't started going out with her sister, well. As for the other aspects of the film, you can quite easily tell when it was made. Most of the acting is over the top, which is typical of the era, with exception of Anthony Perkins. Norman is easily the best played part in this film, and when the actor wants you to feel something, you feel it. I don't think there will ever be another shot quite as chilling as the last shot of Norman Bates in this movie. The director chose to shoot this film in black and white. It does certainly add something to the film, a certain quality which on the one hand, it kind of dates it, but at the same time, it kind of makes it timeless because you can't see the colours and fashion as much. And it certainly improves the use of blood in the film. However, other parts of the film really date it really poorly. The film edits, whilst impressive for the time, are kinda slow and clunky. I watched this film with my mum, and she's by no means an expert on film, but she could tell that the editing wasn't superb, and it got to scenes where it was supposed to be particularly tense, and because of the editing, it ended up making her laugh. So, the cinematography is generally pretty strong though, and the last few shots of the film are some of the most powerful. And when combined with the editing, I suppose. But to be fair to the film, the editing only really makes a major issue during a couple of scenes. So for the most part, it's generally fine. And the music more than makes up for it. The theme for Psycho is easily one of the most iconic musical scores of all time, and it's absolutely perfect for the movie. Bernard Herrmann did an excellent job here. He was the composer for this film, and he was the one who actually insisted that they were allowed to compose something for the shower scene, since originally they didn't want anything. But having watched it now, and watched it muted so that I could see what the effect was, this choice was definitely better. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the film is bad, far from it. I think it's a masterpiece for its time. All I'm saying is it hasn't aged particularly as well. So, if you're going to give it a go, remember when the film came out. This is 15 years before Jaws, 17 before Star Wars, and 58 years ago as of when this recording came out. It has aged, and some things won't be as terrifying for a modern audience, but it can still scare people today, using its cinematography and its music, and it's one of my favourite horror movies of all time, for its subversion and what it did for the genre. Overall, I give Psycho an 8.7 out of 10. If you've got it, or you can get it, check it out. Okay, thanks for watching all. I shall catch you next time.